Hey, Shalom, Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Chachadash. Double honors to the head apostles, bishops, elders, a great millstone that rule well. And Shalom, true brothers in the highways and byways, doing the work sincerely and faithfully and continually fighting that good fight of faith. Lord willing, we are found in that number to be delivered. All right. So I'm going to highlight a video clip, and I spoke about this today at camp, concerning the young lady who pretty much was, in a zone of something ain't right. The things that she's been hearing and learning about the so-called black people in America and the Native American people in America, the shit just ain't driving. And this is what I mean by the masses are waking up. All right. And I'm not talking about those who are in the truth. I'm talking about just the average person in the world who's been in, Babylon the Great for a period of time and has been told all these stories about, the so-called black man, slavery, the things that they've been through, they've gone through. People are starting to wake up, and this story just ain't matching up. All right. So I'm going to play this clip of this young lady, and we're going to get a couple scriptures and go from there.
But, it's just something
Here it goes.
I don't mean to say this to be disrespectful, and maybe some people are going to think this sounds dumb, but I feel like there's a deeper reason why, people of color and specifically the Black community have been relentlessly persecuted. Just the things that happened during slavery alone, were insane. But I don't know, the more I learn about Black history and the ways that, people who literally worked in the government, like the CIA, all these different people in power were trying to ruin the Black community. And it makes me think, dude, I feel like, is there something more going on here than just racism? Because it's like, come on, you're telling me you're doing all of this stuff just because you don't like someone's skin color? I feel like, I have this theory that, what if Black people have some type of superpower? What if they have, I don't know, if they're just born with something very valuable that we don't really know about, but maybe, like I said, these rich people and these people in power, maybe they figured it out a long time ago, and maybe that's why they were like, oh, we have to get rid of them, blah blah blah. I don't know, I feel like maybe they have something special that we are not taught about that is linked to them being people of color. And I've seen some Black creators come on here and try to explain how special it is to have melanin in your skin and how it has all these different properties. But I don't know, I just feel like I have this theory that this goes so much deeper than maybe a lot of us realize, because I'm sorry, but I don't think you're gonna go out of your way for all these hundreds and hundreds of years to try to ruin one group of people over something as silly as, oh, their skin is a different color. I feel like there's something that we don't know. I'm telling you, there's something special about them that they don't want us to know. Okay, this is just something that I've been thinking about recently, and I'm like, maybe if there are some Black creators that maybe they already made a video and I just didn't see it, I don't know, but I don't know, maybe it sounds dumb. Or maybe this is yeah, no shit, Sherlock, but, it's just something
All right. So she has some very valid, points and some very valid interests. Now, she said there was something she has been thinking about. And this is what I mean by the masses are waking up. And I'm not talking about those who are in the truth. All right. The history that has been portrayed throughout this kingdom about who the so-called Black people are and how we were nothing but slaves and servants. This ain't jiving with a lot of people anymore. All right. The jig is up, and the Lord is now putting that spirit on people to have some understanding. And again, the people who are starting to inquire about these things are doing research. All right. So let's start with the book of Genesis 25. We're going to get right down to the points, right? So she said that, there is something that they don't want us to know. And she's right on that. All right. And it has boiled down to, your skin color is what we don't like. So understand this. if the so-called white man truly told you the real reason why they don't like us, all right, then they would have to rewrite history, because now it has to be, proven through the scriptures. They'd have to prove it through the scriptures, right? And say, this is the reason why we don't like these people. Because keep in mind, when Jacob and Esau were born, Esau was the oddball. He was the one who was red and hairy. He was the one who didn't have any melanin in his skin. So for the roles to be reversed, to say, oh, we don't like your skin color, that was just a ploy to not have to bring out the actual truth of the matter. All right. So let's start at Genesis chapter 25, and I'll start at 22. And it says, and the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. Now Rebecca, even from the inception of the boys being in her womb, there was a fight going on. There was a struggle going on between the two children in her womb, right? Verse 23, and the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. Now, going back to what the young lady was talking about, how there was something going on that they don't want the masses to know. They never want anybody to know that these 2 individuals that were in the womb, who ended up being named Jacob and Esau, who are now known as the descendants of the so-called white people and the descendants of the so-called black people. Esau does not want this to be known, because now you have to ask yourself, if this truth comes out, which it already is, now the Bible has to be either invalid or just a fairy tale. You can't have this truth come out and the so-called white man expose who he is according to the Bible and who the so-called black man is according to the Bible, because that'll turn the world upside down. Esau has been using this book, the Bible, as a weapon since he came into power. Right? So let's continue on. It says, and one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. All right. Now you have identical twins and you have fraternal twins. Now clearly Jacob and Esau were fraternal twins. All right. One being red and hairy. And if you understand the story, it never gave a description, right, of Jacob, because that was just a natural thing to be a dark-skinned person at that time or a darker skinned person. So therefore, let's read on. It says, verse 25, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. All right. And when you get into the name Esau, at the end of the day, it means wasted away is he, because he had no melanin in him. Right? But still, these 2 individuals were fighting in the womb. There was a struggle going on. And contrary to what people believe, that, the Edomites are done away with, that struggle still consists and continues to this very minute. Okay? Let's continue on, 26. And it says, and after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. You see how they described Esau but didn't describe Jacob, because Jacob and Esau's parents were black people. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field. Right? And doesn't that describe the so-called white man today? A cunning hunter, a man of the field. They're always out in the wildlife, tenting, camping, tenting, fishing, hunting in the wilderness with lions and doing all kinds of madness. That's their MO. Every time you turn the video on, Esau's out there with guns in the field, shooting up lions and tigers and bears, out in the ocean doing all kinds of shit. All right? Continuing. It says, and after came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he had eaten of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. All right? So this is the introduction of why they hate the so-called Negro, West Indian, Puerto Rican, and Latin people. All right? So that struggle that was in the womb continues through and until their descendants who are living on this earth today. Like I said, contrary to what you believe, the Edomites are still here. All right? So let's jump over to chapter 27. Now, when you read the story, in chapter 27, it's about Jacob and Esau, in the birthright. And Isaac, having given Esau, a command to go out and get some venison and make him some sweet savior meat for him, that he may eat it. So that's the gist of what the beginning of chapter 27 is about. And Rebekah, overheard this conversation. I'm not going to read the whole story, but I'm going to get down to a couple verses. But Rebekah overheard the whole story about how how Isaac was going to bless Esau once that food was delivered unto him. So let's jump down to 27. Let's jump down to verse. Let me see. Let the serve the nations, and it came to pass as it had made. Yeah, let's jump down to verse 30. Let's jump to verse 30. And it says, and it came, let me see. Let the people serve. Yeah. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from presence of Isaac his father. So to catch you up now, Isaac had already given the blessing unto Jacob, who was dressed and smelt like Esau. And Isaac was no fool. He's like, well, wait a minute, hold on. Your voice is Jacob, but you feel like Esau. All right. So with all that being done, Isaac blessed Jacob. Right. And here we go. Verse 30. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from hunting. And he also had made savory meat, and brought it unto his father, and said unto his father, let my father arise and eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said unto him, who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn. And Isaac trembled very exceedingly, and said, who? Where is he that hath taken venison and brought it me? And I have eaten of all before thou camest, and blessed him. Yea, and he shall be blessed. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceedingly bitter cry, and said unto his father, bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, thy brother came with subtlety, and have taken away thy blessing. All right. So again, now you're getting understanding of where this hatred comes from, all right, from the Edomites to the Israelites, or the so-called white people to the so-called black people today in this world. It never was about skin color. Esau was the one who had an odd skin color. But again, they couldn't tell you this truth because history would have had to be rewritten. All right? So let's continue on. Verse 35. And he said to thy brother, thy brother came with subtlety and have taken away thy blessing. And he said, it is not he rightly named Jacob, for he have supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And he said, hast thou reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said unto him, Esau, behold, I have made him thy lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants. And with corn and with wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? Now listen to this, right? Because this also is another key indicator of who the Edomites are today. Verse 38. And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice, and he wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. What does that mean? Why is he being told by his father, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth? All right. Now, this is linked and coincides with Job 9:24. It says what? The earth is given unto the hand of the wicked, right? So, according to Isaac, nobody else was given this type of blessing but Esau. And it wasn't, technically, he just made mention of it. All right. He said, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth. Right. And does not Esau rule the earth? Everywhere you go, Esau got statues of himself, the money system. His face is on the money system, which was one of the key, ruling points. All right. He conducts at the head of every, summit meeting, UN meeting. So Esau was given that dwelling, okay? The fatness of the earth. Verse 40, and it says, and by thy sword shalt thou live. Again, the military, his might, his fierce anger. That's the so-called white man of today, who's in power of the whole earth, right? When you go to the book of Jeremiah, it talks about the hammer of the whole earth. Who's that? That's Esau Edom. Because at one point in time, damn near every nation feared Esau Edom, the Americans. All right? But those days are now coming to an end. Verse 40 from the top again. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have dominion, when thou shalt have dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. Now check it. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. You see that? So when the young lady asked about, there's got to be something more that they're not telling us. That's what that something is. Esau hated his brother Jacob, who now turns out to be the 12 patriarchs, because of that blessing. It wasn't about skin color, even though that's what they tell you. And now the average cracker, he's all about skin color. But they don't really know what's going on. They're also lost. Okay? Again, It says, verse 41. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. You think that hatred has abated? It hasn't. That hatred is still in full effect. Okay? So he's been out to slay us since the days of Isaac passing. Continuing on, it says, in these words of Esau, her eldest son were told to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob her younger son, and said unto him, behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doth comfort himself, proposing to kill thee. All right. So there you have the reasons why the so-called white man truly don't like the so-called Native Americans, so-called black people, because we're all Israelites. We're all the children of Israel. But this is that bigger picture. This is the bigger picture. So she was right on the money when she said, you know, you're going to hate these people because of the color of their skin. It doesn't make sense. Right? So now let's go from there. And this is Genesis chapter 32. And let's start at about let me see. Chapter 32, Jacob, thy brother servant. Let's jump down to Let's jump down to 24. All right? And I wanna kind of expound a little bit on, she said, well, what if they had some type of power that we don't know about? You know? So she's been definitely pondering on these things because shit wasn't making sense to her. And likewise, there's a lot of people who are feeling this way. And a lot of these people ain't making videos about it. But there's got to be something bigger than just a man's skin color for why he's hated. Right? So let's start at verse 30. Let's start at verse 24. This is 32 and 24. And it says, and Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touching the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, as he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. This is what Jacob said to what he was wrestling with, a man, which was an angel. Right? And Jacob said, I'm not going to let you go unless you bless me. Right? And he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince thou hast thou power with the heavenly Father and with men, and has prevailed. All right. So when you break that word Israel down, Yah Shah Allah, which means prince of the power. He is a prince of the power. All right. So the young lady said, what if they have some type of power? Well, we do have a power. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai is our power. And we're those princes of that power. Right? But the so-called white man ain't going to tell you that. He ain't going to tell you that we're those people. He's not going to tell you that we're the beloved of the Heavenly Father, whom the Lord has given us the power. All right? And we're going to receive power shortly. But again, if they were to tell you these things, history would have to be rewritten. Because right now, the people over in the land of Israel are posing as the children of Israel. So that would have to be rewritten. And then you got to ask yourself, well, if they're posing as the children of Israel, then who are they really? And it boils down to one thing. They're Edomites. Okay? So again, understanding the dynamics of why, the so-called white man today has been so tight-lipped or so secretly, hiding the truth. Going back to Psalms, the 83rd chapter, and when you read that, it gets into that crafty counsel. All right? All hands were on deck when they came together with that crafty counsel to do one thing, to wipe out the name of Israel, that it be no more in remembrance. All right? So clearly understand, they who are over in the land now are posing as Israel. Right? Israel's a people before it's a place, remember? So where does Psalms 83 come in? Because if it says to wipe out the name to be no more in remembrance, but they're over there talking about they're Israeli or they're Israel, well, this doesn't make sense. And again, a lot of people are waking up because this shit ain't jiving, man. It's not jiving. You see? It truly is not fitting the mechanisms of what they put in place. And this is why you got young ladies like this and people all over the world starting to question what they have been taught. Okay? So from there, let's go here. Let's jump to Obadiah 1 in verse 10. All right? Because again, this whole video was her trying to reason with herself, why have all this trouble and violence and calamities come to these people because of the color of their skin? And when she made mention of the color of their skin, you see her face, look at her facial expression. She was like, yeah, right, I ain't believing that. All right, Obadiah 1 and 10, it says, for the violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. All right, so now that we understand who Jacob's brother was, we now have to trace what that violence was. We got to figure out what that violence was. All right. Now keep in mind, the reason why we were in this position to receive that violence is because we transgressed against the Heavenly Father. That's why he allowed this nation, all right, to rule over us and to bring violence upon us, to put us into subjection, right? But the big picture is this. When you speak about Jacob's brother, you're speaking about the brother who was in the womb with him, who was Esau Edom, right? And now, as we look and understand here in 2025, there has been a lot of violence from the so-called white man to the so-called black man. And I'm going to say the so-called black man because Judah's the head tribe. They represent the house. They represent the whole house. I'll say it that way. All right. So when I say Judah, I'm speaking for the whole 12. All right, because they're the head tribe. That's the tribe the Lord sprang out of. Just put it that way. All right. But individually, each individual tribe has their own name, which has a meaning, which is what we know as the term omen nomen. All right. Name prediction. And Elder Apostle Gabar brought that out many years ago. All right, so let's continue on. So the violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee. And this goes right along of what the young lady was inquiring about. And she made mention of it. She said, you try to destroy, a whole nation of people. Why? Because of their skin color? Doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. Right? The people in power, she made mention of the CIA and all these elites. They know what's happening. The low-level Edomites, all they're stuck on is skin color. You nigger, you black bastard. That's what they're stuck on. Shit, even the masses of these Edomites have no idea about the birthright. You see? So it does go much deeper than a man's skin color. So with that, now let me get Deuteronomy 7 and 6. Because she ended off with talking about, these guys are just a special people that we don't know about. They're hiding it from us. Deuteronomy 7 and 6. It says, "For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy power. The Lord thy power has chosen thee to be a special people." Now, did not she mention they must be a special people? Something about them that we don't know about? And what you don't know is that we're the chosen people of whom the world inwardly calls God and Jesus Christ. All right? The powers of the creation. We're a special people unto the power of all creation. How about that position? And it says, the Lord thy power has chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. That's talking about the so-called black man, so-called Puerto Rican man, so-called Native American, and all of the tribes that are scattered abroad of that descent. Okay? That's who it's talking about. We are a special people. Yes, she is absolutely right. We are a special people. And though it don't appear right now because of the condition that we're in, because of the captivity that we're in, our people is jacked up right now. But when all this is settled, we're all going to be made whole. All Israel is going to be made whole. Okay? Let's continue. And I'll jump to Deuteronomy 14, 1 and 2. It says, "Ye are the children of the Lord, your power. Ye shall not cut yourselves, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead." Verse 2 is the point. "For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy power. The Lord thy power has chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself, above all nations that are upon the face of the earth." Okay? So, being that peculiar people unto him, we have been given laws, statutes, commandments, right? And with that, we were to follow these laws, statutes, commandments, right? Now, I'm going to read verse 3 just so I can elaborate on it. It says, "Thou shalt not eat any abominable thing." All right? And that in itself has been one of the major downfalls of our people in present day. Our people eat all types of abominations and don't think twice about anything of what the Lord has said or has instructed us to do. Okay? So that's just one example. But all that being said, we are those chosen people. We are those peculiar people. We are those special people. So to answer that young lady's question, is something deeper? Absolutely. But Esau can't tell you that, because the minute he goes into these scriptures and tries to link it up, history has to be rewritten. I believe America would crumble. The very core and foundation of America would crumble right now if they would link us to if Esau would come out and say, we lied to you. We've been telling you all along that the so-called black man and Puerto Rican people were just slaves. And they came out and truly identified who we were. Can you imagine? And this is why the Lord has made this a mystery. Because when the Lord is ready to reveal it all, people are going to be shocked. Okay? And those people who are waking up, they're already, questioning the very fibers of what America is all about. Okay? So with that, let me go ahead. Let me end it up with this. All right? So I put in some of the inventions that black people have made. Because again, are we special? Absolutely. Are we the princes of power? Absolutely. All these things the world does not want to recognize. And even though you can go to these searches and type it in and look it up, you know? And it's amazing to me that these people, these crackers still walk around and don't acknowledge shit about the things that they use, the things that they buy, the things that they have in their homes have been manufactured and invented by the very people that they hate. So it says black people have invented countless items, from the automatic gear shift, Richard Spikes, and gas mask, Garrett Morgan, to Super Soaker, Lonnie Johnson, and the portable refrigerator, Frederick McKinley Jones. Other significant inventions include the automatic elevator doors, Alexander Miles, the 3-light traffic signal, Garrett Morgan, and electric microphone, James West. Here is a more detailed list of inventions and their creators. Transportation and public safety, the aromatic gear shift, the gas mask, traffic signal, automatic elevator doors, fire escape ladder, electric microphone, induction telegraph, portable refrigerator, folding cabinet bed, super soaker potato chip, home security system, modern ironing board, Black History Almanac, carbon filament for light bulbs, Walker hair care system, and that's just not even the tip of the iceberg. So the next time you crackers decide to talk about how much you hate niggas, go do some research and look it up, what these niggas have done for this world. All right. So with that, I'm gonna say shalom.